Hi, I'm Daryl Rogers. I am the Family Recovery Coach, and I'm here to help you get your hope back. Today, I'm going to talk about setting healthy boundaries. Now, this is something that we all need to work on, but particularly the parents of children who are struggling with a drug or alcohol addiction. So in my mind, at least, there are some boundaries that should be a pretty hard and fast line. And the first one is physical abuse. A lot of the things that I say in these videos don't just apply to your child who's addicted to drugs or alcohol. They apply to everything, or they apply to all relationships. But my audience is parents who have a child who is addicted to drugs or alcohol. So that is what most of my content is going to be focused on. So here's the thing. Physical abuse. You cannot allow that in your home. Someone has to go, whether that means you move out or they move out. And when it comes to your drug addicted child, I'm assuming that it's your home as the parent and that they're living with you, they're going to need to move out. Now, it depends on the severity of it and how often it's happened. You can allow a warning if it wasn't very severe and it was one time. But I would, the second time would be it for me, because if they're headed down this path, it's going to more than likely escalate. It's going to become more violent, and it could be fueled by the side effects of the drugs that they're using. It could be that they can't get access to their drugs for a period of time, and so they're in some withdrawals and they become very irritable, and that could lead to it. There's a lot of different factors that could lead to this, particularly if you are engaging with them verbally, in telling them that what they're doing is wrong, or saying that they need to stop using drugs and things like that. There's a better way to handle those situations. And if you confront them, there's a good possibility that they could become physically violent. Not only that, but I know of situations where the drug addicted child has been sober for a period of time, weeks, and had a psychotic episode. They could be hallucinating, could be some almost like schizophrenic episodes happening, and I've heard some very, very, very scary things, scary stories, just even in recent weeks and months of situations like this. So you have to be very careful about having a child in your home who is actively using drugs, or who has recently used drugs, particularly some of the very powerful drugs that are out there now. They can become violent, and you need to be aware of that. And if there is physical violence, you may need to ask them to leave. That is something that you just can't tolerate. So here's the thing. You can offer them, if they're in the right state of mind, you can offer them the opportunity to go to treatment, and that you will pay for treatment. And if they refuse that opportunity, then you can ask them to leave. But you just cannot tolerate physical violence in your home. Not only for your own protection, but if there are other family members living with you, a spouse, or other children, if they're siblings of the addicted child. The second healthy boundary that I would mention here is verbal abuse. Now, this you can give a little bit more leeway on, but if your addicted child is consistently berating you, disrespecting you, and calling you names, and it's just becoming, there's yelling and screaming. First of all, when things begin to escalate like that, I recommend that you lower the tone of your voice, that you speak calm, that you not let them trigger you and draw you into that cycle. Now, I've been guilty of that myself before, so it doesn't ever turn out good. It doesn't work. You're not going to win like that. So the best thing to do is to try to de-escalate by lowering the tone and volume of your own voice, by relaxing your body a little bit so that you can de-escalate this whole thing. And don't engage in the verbal combat. Just sort of back away from it. If it gets bad enough, you can just walk away from it. But just, if verbal assaults continue in your home and they continue to get worse, there comes a point where you just have to say, okay, that's it. We can't tolerate that anymore in our home, and we're going to have to ask you to leave. The third boundary I would bring up here is destruction of property. If they're destroying your house, okay, 1 or 2 episodes, maybe, depending on how bad it is. But if this is something that is an ongoing thing, you work hard to provide a home, and it's, whether you're a renter or whether you own the home, if they're destroying your property and you're having to pay for repairs, but particularly if, and let's just say you're a renter, and there's other property of yours in the home that gets destroyed, or maybe they destroy your car, whatever it is. If they're intentionally destroying your property that you worked hard to pay for, you have to put your foot down and you have to say, no, you can't do that anymore. That's where you have an opportunity to offer treatment for them, and if they refuse it, you can give them the options. You can say, I'll pay for you to go to treatment, or you can pack your bags and move out. When you ask your addicted child to move out, and if you get to that point, you really have to be firm in not caving in and allowing them to move back in a week later or 2 weeks later or a month later, particularly if there was some really, really bad behavior on their part in your home that's aggressive behavior. You are going to have to be firm in not allowing them to just, give you a sob story and move right back in, because you'll be starting all over again. You'll be sending a message to them that you're sort of a pushover and that they can get away with this behavior again, and it won't be long before they will be testing you again and pushing the limit. So when you're setting boundaries, it's important to be firm, and you don't have to be ugly. You want to state them in a way that's easy for them to be understood, and you just are very clear and very firm in what your boundaries are. If your addicted child is bringing drugs into your house and using drugs in your house, particularly if you have, if they have siblings that are in the house, that's a really bad situation, because they can influence their siblings, even though you may think, oh, that'll never happen. It happens a lot, and they can influence their siblings, and the next thing you know, you can't watch both of them 24/7. The next thing you know, their younger sibling is using drugs with them, and that's, you just can't have that. Not to mention all of the other turmoil that is brought into the house that's not good for your younger children. So that's something you really have to take into consideration. So if they're bringing drugs into your house, there's also the possibility that their drug dealer may show up at your house at some point. If they don't pay for their drugs, or they don't pay their bill, or what have you, or maybe he's just trying to make another sale, Their drug dealer could show up at your house. They might knock on your front door, show up in the driveway, or there could be some confrontations out front. There's always gang activity that's associated with the sale of drugs. So that's not something you want around your family. So again, it's just another element of danger that's introduced to your family unit through the fact that your child has a substance use disorder. And you have to take the whole family into consideration, and yourself, your own life into consideration when you're deciding where to draw your boundaries. And you really have to think about safety. Another boundary would be stealing. This is one that you can allow a little bit of leeway on. But if your child is stealing from you and you have to lock up everything or feel like you have to watch everything all the time and you can't sleep because you're worried about what they're going to try to take from you next or what they're going to do next, you might sleep better if they're not living with you. And I know you'll be worried about them, but at least you don't have to worry about your safety as much. And you don't have to worry about your things being stolen as much. And it's not so much the things. The things are not what's important. It's the trust. Now your trust has been broken. When your own child lies to you repeatedly, which they often do when they have a substance use disorder, and when they steal from you, which is a very common thing because they're just trying to get money to get their drugs. When that happens, your trust in them is broken, and that, it's very difficult to live in the same house with someone that you don't trust. So the last boundary that I'm going to bring up is unhealthy helping, or also known as enabling. This is a gut check for you. You need to ask yourself if you're doing things for them that they could be and should be doing for themselves. And if you are, you need to stop doing those things. If you're providing for them financially in any way, you need to understand that that's money they didn't have to spend that now they can go spend on drugs. And you may say, well, they don't have a job, so they don't have any income anyway, so they don't have any money they could spend on drugs. They'll find ways to get it. Like we just talked about, stealing could be one way. They may go sell some drugs. There may be all kinds of things. They'll do whatever they have to get their drugs. This is no longer the child that you raise that you're dealing with, at least while they're under the influence. Or while they're struggling with their addiction, this is a different person. That child is still in there, and you see glimpses of them from time to time, but you're dealing with something else. You're going to have to learn how to stop enabling this self-destructive behavior that they're engaging in, because it not only destroys them, it destroys other members of your family, it destroys you, and there can be this huge ripple effect where a lot of people are negatively impacted by your addicted child's behavior. So when you support them financially, they'll find that just frees up other money for them to support their drug habit. You have to be careful about if they're arrested for something, it's all connected to the drug use. No matter what they're arrested for, more than likely it's all connected to the drug use. Don't go bail them out of jail. Let them spend a little bit of time in jail. I've talked to several addicts who have told me that jail was a wake-up call for them. It doesn't always work out that way for everybody, but they told me that jail was a wake-up call for them and was the turning point for them that got them into treatment. So, if you bail them out of jail, again, you're sending the wrong message that, hey, you can behave any way you want to, and Mom or Dad will be there to bail you out. We'll be there to take care of you and rescue you from these consequences that you've created by your own choices. My name is Darrell Rogers. I am the Family Recovery Coach, and I'm here to help you get your hope back.